All right, let's get right into it. For the longest time, education was pretty simple. You teach a subject to a class. But something really fundamental has changed. The whole mindset has shifted to focus on the individual. Today, we're going to unpack what it really means to teach students, not just subjects.
So, let me start with a question. I bet you've heard this a million times. Maybe you've even said it yourself. Are you a visual learner? Or maybe an auditory one? Or somebody who has to learn by doing? It's just so natural, isn't it? We love to categorize ourselves, to put ourselves in neat little boxes. It helps us make sense of how our brains work. But here's the big question for today. What if those very labels, the ones we know and love, are actually, well, wrong? To figure that out, we need to ask, where did these ideas even come from? Well, they mostly sprang from a few key theories that became incredibly popular in education. Let's take a look at the big three. First up, you've got VAK. It's super simple, which is probably why it caught on so well. The idea is that we all have a preferred way of taking in information, either through our eyes, that's visual, our ears, auditory, or by touching and doing, which is kinesthetic. And the thinking was, a great teacher should match how they teach to the student's channel.
Then came Howard Gardner with his theory of multiple intelligences, or MI. Now this was a huge deal. It totally challenged the old school idea that you can measure intelligence with a single IQ score. Gardner said, no. We don't have just one general intelligence. We have a whole bunch of different, distinct ones.
And you can see just how wide-ranging his idea was. It's not just about being book smart anymore. You could have amazing linguistic intelligence, or you could be a dancer with incredible bodily kinesthetic intelligence. You could even have deep intrapersonal intelligence, which means you're really good at understanding yourself. For a lot of people, this was so liberating. And our third one is from Anthony Gregorich. His model's a little different. He created a sort of map of the mind based on two spectrums. First, how we perceive things. Are you a concrete, hands-on person or more of an abstract thinker? And second, how do you organize information? In a neat, step-by-step sequential way, or are you more random and free-flowing? This mix gives you 4 unique mind styles. Okay, so we've got these 3 really compelling theories. They feel right, they make intuitive sense, but here's where we need to pump the brakes. It's time to take all of this with a pretty big pinch of salt. Right about now, you're probably thinking, all right, so which one is it? VAK, multiple intelligences? Which one should I be using for myself or my students? Well, the answer is not what you'd expect. Let's start with VAK, the most popular one. Here's the hard truth. For all its popularity, the actual scientific evidence just isn't there. Study after study has shown there's no real proof that matching your teaching to someone's supposed learning style actually makes them learn any better. And what about multiple intelligences? The criticism there is even sharper. A pretty scathing editorial in New Scientist flat out called it a neuromyth. They said it uses neurojargon, sciencey sounding brain words, to make what are basically half-baked ideas sound really convincing and seductive. Ouch. So here's the bottom line on all of these theories. They are basically suppositions. They are ideas that people believe to be true, but they haven't actually been proven. Now, that doesn't mean they're useless. They might give us a little peek into a bigger truth about how different we all are, but they are not the solid scientific frameworks we thought they were. So, should we just throw these theories in the garbage? Not at all. This is the most interesting part. It just means we need to think about them in a totally different way to find their real value. See, the real value isn't about slapping a label on a student. It's about using these ideas as a kind of thought experiment for the teacher. They're a fantastic tool for making educators reflect on their own habits and, here's the most important part, encouraging them to use a much wider variety of teaching methods. A checklist like this is the perfect example. The point isn't to figure out which student fits which box. The point is for the teacher to look at it and ask themselves, you know what, have I used a debate recently? Have we done a hands-on project? What about some logical problem solving? It's all about pushing for variety. And that really gets to the heart of it. The goal isn't to be a detective and perfectly match your lesson to each student's style. The real magic happens when you bring a wider range of engaging methods into the classroom because that benefits everybody, especially in subjects that might have been taught in a very one-dimensional way before. So what does this all mean when we put it together? What is the big picture takeaway from this shift away from rigid labels and towards more variety? I think this quote from Jeff Petty just nails it. We used to teach subjects in classes. Now we teach students. It's a complete 180 in philosophy. The focus is no longer just about delivering the curriculum for history or math.
It's about seeing the individuals in front of you and figuring out how to create a learning environment where every single one of them can connect with the material.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Just take a moment and think back to when you were in school. How might your experience have been different? Your confidence, your engagement, maybe even the path you took in life? What might have changed if your teachers had been more aware of all these different possibilities? It's a powerful thing to think about.